So timestamps exist for the purposes of this video in particular because I need it. So you should probably skip forward ahead to a timestamp or 1 or 2 minutes so I can say everything I need to say. So the, I guess, foundation for this video, I really should have written notes. The foundation for this video is that this is a project for essentially modding World of Horror. So the short version, for those who don't know as much about the modding scene, is that this will allow you to, this may allow people to do the things that you wanted to do, because I frequently sometimes lurk in the World of Horror server on Discord, and I see a lot of people asking, hey, can I do X? And the answer is no, not at the moment. But to be more specific as we get into this video, it might be a couple minutes, so timestamps exist. But, last reminder, this particular project, or addition that you may have heard me say recently, this particular modding, what do I want to call it? We are using a certain loader, and that's what I'll say about that. It is something that's used in games like Fields of Mysteria, I think also HoloCure at times for modding, and then I think Undertale as well. I need to say those things because I'm trying to be as accurate as possible. I'll say this a few more times too, so let me say that if there is something wrong with what is happening here, please let me know. I am making this video and displaying, basically going through this video with good faith that everything is okay for everyone. So, as far as I know, no base files are being modded, nothing is being changed or viewed in data.win for World of Horror, or any other files that I know of. But again, if anyone knows anything about basically modding or what is happening in general, based on what you observe, if you are saying things in good faith or you know what's happening, let me know if there's anything wrong. I will take this video down. I will do other things in case you want to see. But there's a lot of cool stuff, and I'm excited for this project. The only other thing to mention, if I can recall correctly, oh man, this is a video, by the way, that I'm editing. I could just cut this out. But, yeah, we're going to be going through things, and I will be saying, not critiques, whether positive or negative, but I just want to get this out of the way, because as far as I know, there is no, if I forget to credit or attribute anything in particular, please let me know. From what I know, though, there is no specific attribution needed, but again, I'm making this video and displaying what's going to be in this video in good faith that everything is credited properly, everything is taken care of properly, and that everything here is to the terms of not just anyone that has to do with the World of Horror, but anyone involved that was part of, that helped, or had something that was used in this project. I'll call it a project, for lack of a better word, because I don't want to say anything that would be inaccurate, so to say, so I'm basically using my own terms. But without further ado, hey, that was about 3 minutes on OBS. I'm clapping here for my own reason. Let's get into it. So, what we have here today is, as I mentioned in the earlier timestamp, if you skip forward, I'm calling it a project that essentially allows you to make more custom content. And if I'm allowed to, or if nothing weird happens, I will actually make content for this. So just really quickly here to explain for 10 seconds, there are a lot of things that you can do with this project, custom character-wise. As I mentioned in the first timestamp, or the intro, we'll go on a regular run, by the way. We'll also be displaying custom history. There's been a lot of questions in the community, at least the English community, in terms of what you can and cannot do in World of Horror. So as we get into this regular run, we'll go through it. So just to explain for the last 30 seconds, basically you'll be, everyone asks, can I do X? And the frequent answer that comes back is no. And so what this project is being built to do, along with just being fun to play and mess around with, is essentially allows you more freedom in modding World of Horror, making custom content for World of Horror in particular. Again, no, as far as I know, no files are modified, changed, or basically touched or manipulated in any fashion. Again, please let me know if there is something wrong, then I can take care of that. But otherwise, we'll go through this. So, there's forced custom events for custom characters, as I can notice, or we'll go say it properly. As you can notice, this custom event was triggered as soon as the game started with Ma-chan as the playable character, which is the character provided to me with this project. You also get a bunch of items, perks, and statuses. You can use bonus types / is that /? I always forget what the slash names are called. Bonus names, values, and a custom character Ito file to set this up. For those who don't know as much about making custom content for World of Horror, this is essentially all variable name talk, and .ito is a specific file type for World of Horror mod content, which I do attribute a lot to, I don't know how, yeah, I guess ingenuity of Panstaz to basically set that up. Refer to Mad Mood of Mid-Mod, which is the mystery that was given with this project to display everything you're going to see. Mystery, to find out more about unlimited prizes and other things. Okay. Pro hint, ModChan has 5 A to E simple debug linked events in the hospital and another 7 F to L demonstrating new features in apartments. So again, for those who don't know, I'll be explaining things for those who don't know, and for those who do know, I might add a thing or two. But for those who don't know, I'll begin with that phrase. Custom characters, I think, can only have up to 4 custom events and up to 2 bonuses. Whereas, as you can see here, we got a bunch of things. In fact, we're going to go to the full log just to show. So custom characters, for those who don't know, you can only get up to 2 bonus things, whether it's a spell, whether it's an item, so on and so forth. But here, as you can see, we got Absorb the spell, we got a Curse branded, we got an ally Ryoko, we got an injured status Broken Jaw, so on and so forth. You get what I'm trying to say. This is certainly a lot more than what we have at the moment. Also, did I just accidentally click out? I think that has to do with World of War itself. Basically, that you can click through items and UI into the event screen, which you don't want at times, but we're going to check the Lighthouse just to see. So, as you can see here, I think these are something I actually haven't gone too far. I've obviously wanted to make sure everything was okay, so I went through this project earlier, but as you can see there, for those who know World of War, basically that Lighthouse looked a lot different, didn't it? Not a lot different, but I guess we'll find out. So, off we go. I know I won't need to get anything for a weapon, so go off. This image is for the apartment screen. If I can read this, the plugin on the character selection screen, the plugin's not working, which, hey, we can call it the plugin, but hey, here's another different thing. As you can see here, most custom characters, I think, can only have 2 attires. Why am I forgetting this? I made like 3 to 6 custom characters. Anywho, so you can normally only have 2, but as you can see here, we have 3, the C attire, D, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Look at those colors in a black and white game. But you get what I'm trying to say. You can add more outfits, which is another thing. We'll go over everything as thoroughly as possible. And if I forget anything, I'm sure someone will yell at me. So off we go. I mean, not particularly yell, but it's that's my fun way of saying I'll be reminded because I've forgotten things before. Anywho. So we will take the custom mystery Mad Mood of Mid-Mod, which really should take last for sake of gameplay sake, but obviously it's to I'm losing the word, display what this project can do, and we'll call it PERM, I guess, because this is what it's named, so I'll just say it there. I didn't even know that. I forgot. Yes, that's actually the name in the directory, but I'm going crazy. Anywho, this mystery demonstrates features available with the provisional extended runtime modding plugin related to custom mysteries, custom events, and custom enemies in World of War, pretty much. So if the project is going to call it that himself, I'm going to call it PERM, but I can also say project. So yeah, provisional extended runtime modding, or PERM, is an unofficial fan-made plugin, I can call it a plugin too, sorry, that aims to temporarily resolve inadequacies of World of War's official built-in modding support in the years between updates. I mean, it's more that things have not been added in yet, because it is quite an undertaking to add custom content to any game, really. So, I'm not saying that's a correction. Again, these are all just more opinionated and or criticisms that are neither positive or negative, to anyone anyway. So the existing feature set gets expanded, while the general approach remains the same. Custom mysteries, events, and characters are based on .eto files and art sound assets loaded by the game separately from built-in assets. For those who don't know, basically, there are a lot of things you can do with the base World of Horror's modding content scene. You can certainly do a lot, and while you are limited, I think there is some innovation that you can do. I've mentioned some before in the past. I won't mention them now for the sake of time, but just know that there's a lot you can do, and this plugin allows you to do more. Again, I think particularly this plugin gets injected along with World of War, which is why I called it an addition before. So it does not change any files that I know of or modify. And in particular, for those who are more technical or better at programming, the game, when you use this plugin, executable code is used before World of War starts. Period. Examples of new features include more event options, more character outfits, side quests, and etc. As you may have seen just earlier. Oh, I almost hit the investigate the mystery button. The author of this plugin is not affiliated with the developers or publishers of World of Horror, and I would like to add, at the time of this video, from what I understand, there is no official endorsement of this plugin as well, so we can keep those separate for separation's sake. The author of this plugin is not affiliated with the creators of RE Framework and YY Toolkit, which are the specific For those who don't know, these are very specific tools and plugins used for game maker games, as I mentioned earlier, I think including Holocure, Fields of Mysteria, so on and so forth. This plugin does not redistribute any assets or code from World of Horror's base game, so as I mentioned earlier. Again, one other thing to add is that if there's anything to say on this game, either good or on this plugin or RE Framework or YY Toolkit, good or bad, I don't know of it. Feel free to inform me if you know any more about either of these two or the situations around those two, because I would like to learn more. I've tried to do a little bit of research on myself, but game dev stuff. But anyway, moving on. Force events at mystery start. As we can notice now, this custom event was triggered as soon as the mystery started without having to trigger any investigations yet. We also got a katana. This can be set up with the optional this variable in a mystery.ito file. So specifically, again, for those who don't know, you have separate ito files for separate things, characters, mysteries, events, so on and so forth. So in the mystery.ito file, for those more who know more about the modding or making custom content, essentially we have, you can use extra variables for extra goodies. This event can even trigger other events or enemies as usual. So you can fight an enemy as soon as you start investigation. Maybe someone pops into the apartments and you get into an encounter. But more about unlimited prizes later. That being said, so there's something really quickly I do want to mention here, before I forget if nothing else, but there is something very particular in modding events that I ran into. I think in particular there's a certain phrase that if you use as the, so they say this button here, you can't investigate your home, is the, actually let's go into an event first. So this is node 1, coming up next, extended custom event options. So let's move on first, and I'll explain what I mean. So for example, there are certain choices, words on these choices, if you use a particular phrase, it can cause some basically bugs in encounters specifically. If you know what I'm talking about, please add in or correct me, but just I'm pretty sure 99% of people who just listen to what I said don't know what I'm talking about, but just know that that's a thing. So extended number of options, as you can already see, we have 8 options here. As we can notice right now, this custom event has 8 options, which is more than 3. Any number in between is also supported, but for 5 or more, the bottom log is disabled. A fair trade, because I mean, more options, something's gotta go away. I think this is a good, I think for now this is okay design for covering the UI. You're normally not looking at the UI at the bottom of the screen anyway, unless you're a new player. But there are times in which you might want to use it, especially if for whatever the reason this plugin or future modding capabilities for World of Horror does something to the chat log basically. But for now it's disabled, which extra choices. Extra options have all the same keys available as the default 3, just with letters D, E, F, G, H. So if I pick option A, there's a dexterity check. If I pick option B, it's a strength check, so on and so forth. Another thing to add here is, I forgot what I was going to say, never mind, moving on. Strength check. So something I think I've noticed so far, and yeah, notice that the log pretty much did clear, but if we go into the full log, let's do some tests. Okay, good. Nothing went insane. I wonder if there is a general setting, and I mentioned this in a previous video, but if there's a setting to enable extra math. As you can see here, extra math is turned on for me, but I don't see it. That's just nice from a game, like a try-hard sweat standpoint. It does not need to be implemented if any serious bugs happen. But anyway, into Node 2. Coming up next, extended custom event results. And there's a side quest here, but we'll do it when need be. I'm pretty sure we have the time to do it. Also, let's equip the katana before bad things happen to us. So, off we go. This is going to be a long video, by the way, because we're going to take our times to savor it, as might happen with other... Anyway, I'm just going to move on. Extended results. Skip the display. You can use this variable to skip displaying the result of each option. Any rewards are still applied, you just don't need to press another button. This includes resolving the event, triggering another one, or triggering an enemy fight. Immediately trigger the next event. With skip display, so on and so forth. You can use this variable to change the currently displayed event image. I should say it for the sake of those, but I'm just paraphrasing here because I'm sure most people watching this, actually no, that's not correct. I'm not going to say that. Most people watching this video probably know a bit about custom content, but you get the point. The variable name here is what you use. So change the image. Ooh! Oh goodness, look, the image change. Just like the vanilla visitor event. Each option and result can use a different image. For those who don't know what this is talking about, basically, in base World of War, in custom events, you can't really change the image without essentially moving on to another event, which has its own little quirks and nuances. Just trust me, bro. That's a trust me, bro statement. But anyone who knows custom content probably knows how valid this is. But now you can do more cool things with events, for those who don't know. And then correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, extended results sound. I should have been reading these too, by the way, the titles. In custom events, you could always use the load sound key and then set this variable win effect to sound. This is, however, limited to a single sound effects across all possible results. It has, I think it's the sound effect, but you get what I'm trying to say, I think. So now you can specify a separate win sound or failure sound value for each result. So sound 2. And if you didn't hear that, it was an English voice saying unique sound 2. You can even combine it with non-sound win effect values like blood splat, which is something you'll often see. It might become invisible at times, but it certainly happens. I forget about it because I see it so many times. Extended results, skip reward summary. Normally rewards, oh my goodness, such as items or resources would be automatically summed up at the bottom of this text. It's slightly broken for chained events too. With this variable key, you can disable this behavior. Grant rewards without forced summary. So I think particularly what this means is that when you grant stamina or reason, it always displays this parentheses plus stamina, reason, experience, so on and so forth. Oh my goodness! Oh! And yes, the reason I screamed was because I had to cut. But anywho, so yeah, as you can see here, the text here that is usually given by the game, you can now customize. So it says, enjoy your free XP. And we got a lot of XP. And I won't level up yet, but let's just keep going. So yeah, let's level up now. So we'll take whatever I want and we'll move on. Because we're here to display this plugin. I keep saying display, but you get what I'm trying to say. Showcase, I guess, is another thing. This is node 3 coming up next. Extended custom event unlimited rewards. That sounds nice, but I guess we'll see what actually happens. Because I forgot to. Yeah, unlimited rewards. You're no longer limited to a single main prize and a limited extra prize. New keys, these variables allow you to set a virtually unlimited list of rewards with a comma separated. So for those that don't know, essentially you are limited, as far as I understand, to giving out basically 2 different things, and even one of those variables is limited in what it can give you. And in fact, the order kind of matches. I feel like I've ran into some bugs with that before, but basically, you're free to. You have more freedom, and you can give a lot more stuff. As for example, hey, 2 katanas, chainsaw, Ryoko, Uchida, the dog allies, hangover branded, -1 stamina, plus 50 experience. So that's a lot of stuff. I recommend the person still recommends to use the main win price for triggering events and enemies for readability, which is nice because otherwise, I mean, you're kind of just leaving some of those variables empty. It's nice to just have them around. But off we go. So, reward types. The pool of available reward types, my mumbling voice, was also extended. You can now remove specific things, add and remove perks, and increase and decrease max stamina and reason. Basically, for those who don't know, this is a lot more freedom. So now we remove 1 katana, an ally, hangover, add Irizumi perk, 1 max stamina, add 1 max stamina, and add 2 max reason. Again, for those who don't know, I can also compare this to a main event. So there's a specific event in which you, I think, can lose Ryoko, the ally, but now you can do that with custom events. If you could already do that before, basically just understand we have more freedom. Maybe I'm saying that wrong. This is what notes are for, by the way, but this is not really a prepared video. Most of the add and removal prize types now also have a unique variant. It will only add a prize if the player, capital P, doesn't have it yet, or remove only a single instance in the case of duplicates. So in the case of having a lot of katana, as you saw. So, moving on. Did we lose a katana? I'm going crazy now. But in any case, it should all be working fine. Hey, node 4, coming up next, extended custom event, global variables. Global variables are very powerful things, by the way, but I'll let the game explain what it means by that first. Another new type of reward is the ability to set or change global variables. These variables can be accessed across the entire playthrough. For example, is that what EG stands for? No, hold on. Going off track to see what the definition of EG is, because if nothing else, we can learn some grammar. Yeah, for example, early in your custom mystery, you can remember the result of a specific action and refer to it later on without changing the ending or using up one of the 2 mystery card statuses. You can set text or number variables. So, to explain really quickly why this is important, and I assume the plugin handles this, so what this can mean, I think, someone correct me if I'm wrong, whether by message or otherwise, is that say you have 2 custom mysteries and say you want to link them together, which is something I want to do with a certain custom character that I've released before. Say they're investigating we'll say a murder, in this mystery. You can have part 2 be at the end of the quote-unquote run, and if you can do Lighthouse stuff, which I didn't check yet, cool too, but you set, say, you suspect A in Mystery 1, and if I'm getting this wrong, well, it's just me saying ideas and brainstorming, but say in the custom Mystery 1, you suspect culprit A, and that's the variable you set, A. And there are several culprits. Then in Mystery 2, which you take last because you want to be immersive, you use that variable to influence something that happens. So you could do something like this. So let's just say set test mystery variable to 1 in this case. And after setting a global variable, for example, in my example, culprit equals A, the letter A, we can use it as a requirement with the additional requirements of value. More about these later. So for example here, so a very simple example that is very, very powerful in my opinion is that you have choices and some of them are locked out. So in this case, with my example, it would say culprit variable must be A. If it's not A, then you have to take another decision. Maybe you guessed wrong on the culprit of a murder mystery. Maybe you forgot to take an item, quote unquote, that is not exactly an item in game, but maybe it's a key item and you want to treat it that way. This global variables are very powerful, I'm trying to explain. If for no other reason than with RPG Maker experience, hey, yeah, variables are important. So, the test variable is 1, we succeed, and this can be any number of things that can happen either lore-wise and or gameplay-wise. So if you didn't... Well, yeah, anyway, moving on. I should have explained how important global variables can be. Anyway, on to Node 5. Please note how village is currently the only restricted location, so if I click here, can't travel to the village. Coming up next, extended custom event miscellaneous rewards. Did I pronounce that right, by the way? Anywho. Moving on. Something truly evil, which is something I have not run into since forever, pretty much. Another special reward is the ability to set or adjust the something truly evil or STE counter. So we can increase it by 1 because I don't want STE to interrupt us here. So as you can see, we have 1 in the STE counter. For those who don't know, basically, if you run into STE and you're playing on Harbinger of Doom, you are 99% about to lose the run. In my opinion, anyway. Another special reward is the ability to trigger random or specific town statuses. So that's, again, something more freedom, basically. You cannot do this with the current custom content / modding capabilities of base World of Horror. You can either trigger them right away or override a specific one to be triggered after a current mystery ends. So, for example, let's trigger roads closed right now. I hate this, but hey. And if you go check really quickly here, then you see roads closed right here. So, roads closed triggered, if it's already enabled, it has no effect. Town statuses do not stack, which, gameplay-wise, can be interesting if you allow them to, but for the sake of probably bugs and whatnot, don't let them stack. Anyway, did you know, or I know, that this is the location threat indicator located right here? I actually didn't know that. It's darker the higher the danger level is. But that's because, in my defense, you're supposed to already know what your threat level is before you enter. But I guess if I forget, which I often do, okay. But you can also set or adjust the current location threat level. Note that custom events don't use the threat mechanic by default. You can enable it by adding this variable key to events and their eto files, such as this one. Threat will then be applied to skill checks in this event. So we increase the threat level by 1. Allowed value of location threat is 0-3 from pretty much no threat level to max threat level, I believe. The final value will be automatically adjusted within this range. So basically, if you set a negative number, I assume it goes to 0, and if you set a max, like 99, it goes to 3, which is very good. You do not want bugs from, not overflow, but out of scope variables, which, hey, that's something very simple to mess up, and I've messed up a lot, but it's important. You can also lock or unlock specific locations on top of restricted locations variable configured in the mystery.eto file. For this mystery, the village was already locked from the start with restrict location or this variable rewards specifically. So again, for those who don't know, rewards is basically a placeholder name for what. In this case, it's locations. Maybe it can be something else, but just know that it's another way of saying an item, a variable, so on and so forth. This works only during custom mysteries, by the way, so restrict the seaside, and if we go out, the seaside is restricted now. We can't go investigate it. So on to Node 6. As we can see, the restricted locations change. Coming up next, extended custom event requirements. I assume this text can also change based on what happens, but again, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone. We're traveling with 2 Ryokos, by the way. It's a real world for... So we can use more complex requirements for all custom event options by adding this variable and logic operators, and or not. For those who don't know, programming as much logic operators are essentially ways to check for requirements or conditions in technical programming or code. So they help decide that. So if something is true and something else is false, do this. If something is false or I forget something in real life, then do this. Things of that nature. All new requirements available for standard required keys or this variable are also supported. Examples are below. So say there are no requirements, that's pretty straightforward. Needs katana or the crestfallen mask item. So if you have either of these, we can make this decision. But we also cannot have the marked Bible item. And so this one, the text is going off the thing, but hey, I wonder if you can change text size in the middle of this. That would be interesting, but that could cause some, at least graphical bugs, if not really bad crashing bugs. But anyway, you get the point. So off we go. We'll pick the middle one just to show, and yeah, just to show that it goes through. But again, that's another example of limitation and innovation. Otherwise, you could always just split it into 2 separate events, but then that causes other gameplay problem. Anyway, there are also some completely new requirements. Examples are below. Needs the roads closed town status, which you cannot check. For those who don't know, you can't check town statuses and trigger things based on, or lock or unlock decisions based on it. As far as I know, needs a katana equipped. Basically, you can't check if something is actually equipped. You can only check if it's in inventory, I believe. And then, as you may have seen in a recent video, you cannot replace items. You just get a different thing. The actual example is that there's an event. I know there's a custom event that checks to see if you have an empty bottle. If you pick that choice where you can fill the empty bottle, you still keep the empty bottle, but then you get a bottle full of sludge. That's the scope and limitations of the current base World of War modding capabilities. But we'll take the roads closed because we have roads closed. And then on to Node 7. Coming up next, extended custom event tests. I'm sure this mystery mentions it somewhere, but you can also have up to 16 main investigations, which can be balanced. Some people might be saying, oh, that's a lot to do, but you can also just lower doom yourself if you feel, which I feel should be a thing, or something along that lines. Anyway, true randomness. We can decide the outcome of a chosen option by rolling against a random number instead of a specific stat by setting the test key to this variable. Random_x, x being the number to roll against. For example, 3, so you roll against 3. Roll d12, or a dice that has 12 sides, or counts up to 12, against 9. And so now we can show it here. Again, it's interesting to see this here, but then when you're doing stat checks with custom events with this plugin, yeah, we don't have the math yet. So, again, that's not negative or positive criticism. That's just something that I've observed. Anyway, unless there's a way to turn it on, again, I always want to add that asterisk point as we keep getting branded. But we can decide the outcome of a chosen option by comparing it against a provided value, just like Lighthouse events in the vanilla game, by setting the test key to stat x. For example, dexterity has to be 8. So this will succeed if strength is 15 or higher, which it's not. This will succeed if dexterity is 3 or higher. Or this choice will succeed if funds is 2 or higher, and it won't consume them. But we'll do the strength one for giggles so we can fail. For all dice roll tests, you can also set a separate difficulty modifier with the modifier with this test modifiers event. Well, not with the event, but you get the point. This can be combined with location threat if the use threat mechanics variable is enabled, or in this case, key. So a slightly easier dexterity check. And again, I can't see the numbers, so I don't know for sure. I just have to believe. Global variables, by the way. Finally, you can also check values of global variables, including ones you've set yourself. So remember what I mentioned earlier? Yeah. To decide the outcome instead of using it to lock the option completely. Remember the variable that we've set earlier? Yes, it was 1. But it didn't need to be that way. But you get the point. Node 8 coming up next, extended custom event balancing. So I'll let the game speak for itself. Event balancing. By default, custom events forced by mysteries do not increase doom on investigation. At the same time, that's something I've forgotten before, every single triggered chain event can trigger a branded doom penalty or other effects, bleeding, compass bonus, so on and so forth, making balancing them a mess. You can now configure this for every custom event with the skip effect variable and forced doom key variables. Pretty self-explanatory. Again, for those who know, basically, there are interactions with custom events and in-game status effects that can basically just be very bad depending on if a content or a custom content creator does not know or is not wary of these status effects that can proc during their events, so on and so forth. The creator's recommendation would be to apply all effects on the initial forced event and do not do it for all the chained ones, unless the plot specifically states that a chained event passes time, which lore and gameplay-wise makes sense, at least to me. But the creators are the creators. If they want to go crazy, they can go crazy. I would not advise it, though, because otherwise you're going to hear me yelling. Unless you like to hear me yelling. This way, the total amount of doom received, or any other status effects, during a mystery is 1, predictable, but 2, balanced, at least in my opinion. But balances to each person's own fun reward. But anyway, as we keep going here, I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure this mystery prompts us to do the side quest at some point. But as we search the tent and succeed a 12 luck check, node 10. This is already more than vanilla custom mystery support. So, as I mentioned earlier, the 10th node usually instantly triggers the ending if you try to force it, I believe, in base custom mysteries without this plugin. Now, we can specify up to 16 mystery nodes, 11, 12, so on and so forth. So, I wasn't counting, by the way, but I believe it, because it feels that long. I mean, the nodes are numbered anyway, so this is node 11 as we level... we can wait. As we can see, restricted locations changed again. Now the mansion is gone. Oh no! Even without a custom event being triggered. We also got some experience. Instant story node rewards handle all the same rewards as custom events. So that's why you saw that my experience... Now I can level up, even though my experience was not at 200 before. I'm pretty sure. But anywho. Venetian Society! So node 12 coming up next, extended custom enemies. So into this. Custom enemies were also extended. Okay. Let's trigger the enemy to demonstrate. Alright. Custom enemies can now use any skill available to vanilla enemies. Set it with the skill name variable key. You can specify a list of items they might randomly drop and a separate improved list if you have a dog ally. With these variables, but most importantly... Don't forget to use assessed. Custom enemy. So, as we assess here, and for funsies, we can just throw a kick. So, now that... So, for those who don't know, essentially all enemies, especially when you assess them, but just by nature, they have usually a trait of some sort. And they have weaknesses and so on. Categories. So, this is a human female. You can also tell by the icon they're weak against magic, so if I were using if this katana were not a sharp weapon but a magic weapon, again, these are all base World of War things, but I need to explain them so they make more sense. This enemy would take extra damage, but we don't have a magic weapon. And then this little thing, so this says cornered animal here, but it could be other traits that currently exist in World of Horror. So for those who don't know, when injured they deal double damage. This also applies to base enemies like the Obsessed Man and the Aspiring Model. So when you hit them, they deal double damage. As you can see, this one went from 1 stamina to 2 stamina. The Obsessed Man goes from, well, on Harbinger of Doom, 3 stamina possibly to 6 stamina. And then, oh look, a custom bio. So, can you do this with custom enemies at the moment? Anyway, I don't think there's anything else, and if there is, well, I'm sorry because I wasn't paying too much attention. But anyway. And events that can trigger after combat. You can trigger a custom event instantly after a fight to keep the event chain going with the variables in the enemy eto file. So in the enemy eto file, I assume you can assign an event to happen, and that event will proc after the enemy is defeated, lost to, or escaped from, depending. Well, anywho. This works for both mystery custom enemies and random custom enemies, so... As it just said. Now, my question was whether or not, if you can set things to happen based on escape, or if you can make the plugin at least remember that you escaped. I was cracking my knuckles. So basically reading whether or not you won an encounter or escaped an encounter. Although usually I assume you just want to win, but this is something to think of because it can happen with encounters that pretty much... If someone asks, say, hey, I want to make an enemy for the downtown area with this plugin, can I assign an event if they choose to run away? Or maybe there's just a bug in which the eto file expects you to win, but you run away, and then something weird can happen. But that's just something that I don't know because I'm not in charge. I swear I'm not the worst person who made this plugin. I'm far too busy for that. But I can make this video. Node 13, coming up next, custom event trigger requirements. So into the forest we go. I really should level up here, but we'll move on. So, trigger requirements. For random custom events, not forced by the mystery or triggered as chain event, you can specify trigger requirements. again, really quickly, those who don't know, when we say chain events, we mean events that go into other events that go into other events, or just back and forth. So this works similarly to the additional requirements variables, but instead of unlocking options, it controls if an event can be triggered randomly during the investigation at all. Again, let me repeat that. You can specify trigger requirements for random custom events, but this would work similarly to additional requirements, but instead of options being unlocked, it determines whether or not it can happen when you do an investigation at all. An example use would be to allow a custom event to trigger only if a specific status or ally is active, or set a global variable during a mystery and unlock custom enemies after it ends based on your choices. This way you can have your custom mystery impact the rest of the playthrough. Again, let me know if I get anything wrong. Period. Node 14. If we didn't finish the side quest yet, let's do it. All vanilla types of side quests can be set, as well as custom side quest rewards. So let's go to the schoolyard. Again, this is not something you can do regularly. And I'm sure custom gossip, and I assume that's what we're looking for. Side quest completed. Use this variable in the mystery.eto file specifically to grant rewards. And side quest rewards. As we can notice now, this custom event was triggered as soon as the side quest was completed. We also got some experience. This can be set up with the optional side quest prizes and these variables in the mystery.eto file. Now again, this can be tricky if there are side quest completion. I'm sure that the person in charge or people in charge of this plugin have thought of this. Otherwise, I would just like to say, again, just note that just make sure that we're not being yanked to a custom event during a sensitive part of the game that would cause like a soft lock or crash. But I'm sure, again, I believe we can use events to grant rewards here instead of directly after a quest. It's more readable this way. Or don't give any rewards right away. Or don't give any rewards right away, and instead use global variable side quest completed variables as a requirement later on in the custom events to affect the course of the events or mysteries. So off we go. Let's finally do this investigation. That was an event after completing the side quest. And this is a base event. Again, with base events we can see the extra map, but with custom events... And I assume that's because the plugin is also handling custom events. That's why the extra map doesn't appear. But that's just me thinking right now. Node 15, we're reaching the end. This is the last node that can still trigger forced custom events. So let me repeat that. There are up to 16 nodes that you can set. But node 15, if I'm understanding this correctly, node 15 is the last node that can still trigger forced custom events. And coming up next, extended endings. So off we go. So, extended number of endings. We can now set up to 8 endings for the custom mystery, which is more than 3, which I assume is the base that we can do for custom mysteries in the base game. Extra endings all have the same keys, image, flavor, text available as the default 3 endings, just with letters, being able to handle the extra 5 endings. Side note, this variable ending trigger can now be set in win prize unlimited rewards variable, but we're recommended to keep it in extra win prize like vanilla for consistency, but it's there if you want to. So let's pick ending H to move on with life. So this is node 16, the end. Also, endings B and C will now use correct separate images, so that's cool. Again, something really cool for graphics sake. Don't forget to check out, the custom character that we're using. So off we go. This is ending H, slide A. This is ending H, slide B. This is ending H, slide C. Again, just to show that you have the ability to make so many endings with differing slides, essentially. And then setting it to ending H, which I assume you can set global variables in the middle of other stuff as well. But again, nice to know. So yeah, without further ado, not really much else to go. I mean, we're going to finish the Lighthouse because I'm sure Jordan should probably set timestamps here, that nothing really much else is going to be happening at the moment. So we're going to go through as normal, but I can talk about basically the modding scene in World of Horror. I'm not going to say it's dead, but I'm also not going to say it's probably as strong as people would like it to be, although I will say it is definitely alive, because if that weren't the case, I would not be over 100 plus episodes. So just by rule of, my own content, it is certainly still alive. And you could say it's strong, I won't argue that as much as well, but I definitely would not say that there is no modding scene for World of Horror, especially if you look elsewhere aside from, because I usually just go to, Discord, Reddit, community, so on and so forth, but I'm sure that other places exist as we swing really hard with this katana. So that being said, again, if you want to just hear me yap on, there is timestamps, and I've already probably have said to skip forward to the Lighthouse if there's anything else. If there's not anything else, Future Jordan will take care of the timestamps. But again, if nothing else, we'll go over basically what I'm familiar with. So as I do something really quickly, because I need to do a thing, and that was the sound of me turning on a light. Yeah, that's right. There are apartment and downtown events that we can see. So now we can set up with this linked event here. Now can set up to 9 character costumes, which is more than 2, which is something I've mentioned before. So give me Ryoko and give me 10 experience. Yeah, this run is going to be crazy easy, even on Harbinger, but for very, very obvious reasons. So as we continue to failing checks, because even with good stuff, we cannot get away from RNG. But at least, so something that was mentioned, and if I'm understanding correctly, is that basically we can just do dice rolls without having to rely on stats to roll against, and just prevent options, which also allow this plugin, if it comes to fruition, at least publicly, because it's not available publicly, if I recall, is it can be very powerful. It will allow a lot more freedom, but how exactly, I would have to think on it and actually try things out myself if I'm allowed to. I forgot to actually ask that. But anyway, as we move on here and take Kana with us, yeah, there are other things to consider, but I'm sure with the game like World of Horror, there's not going to be any, well, particularly bad overflow problems, or basically slowdowns, if you want to speak more human-like. And even then, I'm not ever going to say I'm some magical programmer. That if for no other reason, then we know what that's like right now, and I will just say that much. But at the same time, again, it's not like if I haven't mentioned it before, I'll mention it now. I like to think that I'm better at designing things specifically for video games than I am an actual programmer of code or anything like that. Not saying that I couldn't do it. But one part of that, as this also is going tangent to the topic of, well, this plugin that we're using here for World of Horror, but, I forgot what I was going to say. Gosh, me. Why have I done this? I also want to quit this camera, by the way, but we also should just level up just to be sure here. But as we move on, yeah, basically, yes, coding is important, but it depends on, again, for those who don't know, I'm saying this for those who may not know as much, or maybe don't have as much game dev experience, but as a wannabe game dev myself, it's not like I've done anything spectacular, but I've dabbled enough to know, like, when you're making something in Game Maker, when you're making something in RPG Maker, when you're making something in an Unreal or Unity, or any game engine, I'm sure I've forgotten at least a few more, but you understand what I'm trying to say. There are, and while there are very generalized coding languages, whether it's C++, whether it's Python, whether it's Ruby, or whether you're actually just doing something with HTML on websites, or CC code, or CC code? I'm so sorry. But you get what I mean. There are, as it turns out, the languages of the world, like English, Japanese, Chinese, Spanish, Korean, so on and so forth, we also have programming languages, which are essentially made in, I think normally the English, British English or American English, from what I am comfortable with, but also experienced with. But I'm sure you can also code things in other languages as well. There are coding languages, again, for those who know, Java, Python, I've mentioned. They operate differently, but these can also be, I'm sure more than a few game engines either are compatible with the same types of programming languages, or just support one language in total. But anyway, as we get to linked event K, we can add unique sprite overlays for every status, injury, curse, and equipped item. For those who don't know, basically at the current moment with base World of Horror, you can only add up to 11 status graphics for the overlay. Common ones are, low stamina, so if you have under 10 stamina, maybe your character is bleeding a lot more visually. Don't hurt me, robots. If you have low reason, maybe your character gets a lot more scared, like they have tears on their face, so on and so forth. This is what this means, for those who don't know, about sprite overlay. So basically, every status, now we can have something for every mask. Now we can have something for, say you have a, what's it called? Say you have a spider bite, you can put a spider bite on Machan's face or something like that. Say you have the branded curse, or I think does branded? I know branded exists for the base characters, but you get what I mean. If you have a katana, you could put a katana on Machan's back, so on and so forth. We can also specify the order of rendering them. I think this means the priority, so you don't want a character bleeding on top of a mask, although you can have that, but what I mean by that is it's probably supposed to be on their skin, and the mask is going to cover anything on their face. This is what we mean by ordering. Again, if I'm wrong, please correct me. Otherwise, check the section here in the character's Ito file. In fact, if we still have the branded curse, we can see it displayed right now, which we probably did not get. Actually, we do. But I don't know where it is, so unless I have to put on different outfit, question mark. But essentially, know that this is apparently working in this thingamajiggy. And I don't know if brain damage is added as well. But essentially, whether or not this actually exists, it's a nice thing to have for visuals' sake, if no other reason. But as we swing this katana hard twice, yeah, let's move on. Luckily enough, we have mysteries that put us in the apartment, so it's actually great that we have that. So we can set a custom victory screen and text for the character using the good ending variable and the good ending text variables in the character.ito file. Hey, Ryoko. And moving on. Actually, yeah, it would be nice to go through each one of these events, but then I'd have to proc each and every one, and I think it's still random pretty much. Or unless it's not random. I guess we're going to find... No, linked events. This means that we're running into events in order, right? Question mark? I guess I'm going to find out. Custom characters can now use the Faith stat and mechanics just like Yashiro. Check the Faith key in the character Ito file. So, give me a chainsaw. And off we go. But again, if I'm understanding this wrong, please correct me. So, K, J, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, I'm going crazy. Anyway, moving on. Linked event I. In addition to, or instead of, hard-coded perk list, you can specify exactly which perks your custom character will have available on level ups with the perks key in character or in the character Ito file. For those who don't know, you can only give your character packs of 2 perks. So, for example, this is not a real example, there's Doomed Already Quick Thinking, maybe part of a pack called the Dexterity Pack. And once you give that Dexterity Pack, you have to assign it in a character's Ito file, and they can only have these 2. Basically, now you can set different perks instead of perk packs, which allows you more flexibility, essentially. Shrug. That's the end of the sentence. And off we go. I could keep visiting the apartments just to do things, but as we run into the event crawler here, I actually just want to throw these. Now, at least, if nothing else, we can learn base damage-wise. We can see the throw damage of the chainsaw. Is the chainsaw really 7 damage on throw? Well, I know the katana's low, so that must be correct. Anywho, moving on. We can also level up really quickly here, but we'll find out. Yeah, we can camp out in the apartments for a moment. This is going to be a long video, by the way. Or long for me, anyway. But I also don't want to lose the run because I want to reach the lighthouse. So if we can park in a mystery for a moment, then hey. Although actually we have scissors, so we're gonna be forced to go into this. So no more downtown and apartment events, but it's fine. We can fight this scissor lady no matter what. Now if we're on timeline B, it'll be a bit wonky, but we really don't need to worry. So as we swing this katana really hard here. If nothing else, aside from the few moments when I said that as well, the katana is a very strong weapon, everyone. There's a reason why, even though it's so slow... End of sentence. End of the sentence. I'm running into a lot of enemies, by the way, but, I mean, they're all being one-shot because... Again, for those who don't know or didn't remember, your level actually directly adds to your accuracy. So the more levels you have, the more accurate you will be. Most of the time. Unless an enemy just has a big power value, which technically the Scissor Lady does, but it still doesn't really matter unless we just get super oofed here. Which cannot happen, so never mind. Actually, now I'm curious, do we have a different sprite on Bath? I don't think we do, right? I mean, that's a really, really minute thing to add. No, we do not, so... I'm not disappointed, I was just actually just curious. But as we enter the lighthouse here, let's see what actually happens. Because I don't know what this sigil is. I guess we're gonna find out. I hope that you can basically custom events in the lighthouse. I guess we're gonna find out. That would be quite cool to add. But let's find out. Because then I wonder if you can even influence the order. Yeah, so linked Lighthouse 3. Now you can add custom Lighthouse events, random or linked to characters, such as this one. Because Lighthouse events are decided as soon as a playthrough begins, they don't handle trigger requirements. But my question is whether or not you can put them in an order so that you can purposely basically make a custom character that has essentially and not an ending, but you can make a better ending instead of a flat, hey, Takushi-san is being hit by the katana and goes down in one turn. But you get what I mean. Anywho, yeah, now add custom Lighthouse events, and they don't handle trigger requirements, so off we go. And that's the last of that. So, yeah, without further ado, feel free to ask any questions. I'll try to answer them if I know any answers. But otherwise, hey, we also have a custom victory screen. Good job, this text is displayed on the victory screen. Custom victory screen goes here, and this one is displayed at the bottom. So basically, yeah, I think this is a good showcase of this plugin. I think it's done a lot. If anything else appears to me at the screen, I will actually be a bit scared. But yeah, without further ado, again, not going to take up too much more of your time. This has been the PERM plugin. And again, if you have any questions, comments, criticism, concerns, or if you want to tell me if something is good or not, please let me know. I would like to know. And I will at least think about things. Unless I get an official response from anyone who has some authority, then I will definitely follow, because it's not... I made this video in good faith that everything is good. And I know I'm using that phrase a lot. It's because I don't have a better one. But yeah, without further ado, again, if you wanna do anything, this video is here. And we'll see if I do more. If I can do more, I will, because I am interested in doing things. I guess one more thing to note as a bonus to the end of this video is that especially those who know about custom content in World of Horror, might be wondering, well, what happens if you use the custom events that were made for this plugin on base World of Horror? Basically, you'll get everything without the freedom, or you'll be limited again. I think in particular, one example was events. I don't recall if I tried this myself or not, or if I read this somewhere or not. But basically, so say we have a choice with 8 or an event with 8 choices that this plugin allows. If you basically stop using this plugin, that event will have 2 to 3 choices again, being the first 2 or 3 choices. I don't know if anything clashes in particular, but basically it should be easy to remove them, especially if you have any experience with custom content, because then you could just either convert them back or have a copy that is not with the plugin and is compatible with the base game, so on and so forth, things of this nature. But yeah, without further ado, again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, please let me know. Otherwise, I will see you later. Thank you for watching. Bye!